I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey there, After Buzzers. Welcome to the party. This is the 4 Live After Show, Season 1, Episode 10, Characters and Fitness. The gang is all here. What's up, everybody? We got Jeff Will in the building.
What's good? Good to be here, man. How are you?
Back again. I'm doing well. We're still, the gang's still here. McDonald, how you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling excellent. Excited to talk about this one.
You always bring something new. And then Emily May, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm happy to have all of us together again. We're still holding down the fort in our separate places, but we still have a lot to talk about, so I'm excited.
Absolutely. Tonight's episode, they did give us a lot of information. So there is a lot to discuss. I tried to break it down because in particular, we definitely have to spend some time talking about one of the biggest questions that got answered was Aaron and Darius's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured we'll talk about Aaron in jail for a bit. We'll move on to Aaron and Darius, and then we'll talk about kind of the warden and that transitional phrase. That sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay,
drive the boat.
Let's do it.
So let me tell you, because when they first started with the day one thing, I already was like, oh God, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. We got to go back into time. But it was really good to see, even though it was so many days, kind of the whole experience. So I guess we can start there. Emily, what did you think about having to go back in time and just kind of really relive some of those incidences?
Yeah, I think it was, we've seen this type of use of this storytelling element throughout the season. So I feel like this episode was all about that we had to have these questions answered in this episode. And I think it helped. I think it helped having it felt exhausting for us to see it go from one day to like 2000 plus. And you could feel the frustration, you could feel just like the tiredness of it. And so I feel like that element of it, of going back in time and seeing these moments happen, was really effective.
Yeah, for sure. Because it did explain a lot. Like I said, there were so many questions that we just never had the context to know. I still think they do a really bad job of introducing characters and names. But Dot, what did you think, kind of just going back in time and reliving Aaron's whole prison sentence?
You know what? I thought that I had already met the highest level of respect that I could have for Aaron. But after this, it went to yet another level. Even though it was in an odd place, I think it was extremely important for us to go back and to relive that. Because for me, I got a greater sense of why he was fighting and just how much more important it is for him to win his case. The entire time watching it, my heart was just breaking for all of the things that he was having to endure within jail and on the outside of jail. And for me, sitting there, I'm watching Aaron, but I'm always remembering those other victims who have fallen to similar circumstances where they are being held in jail for something that they didn't do. So it was extremely impactful, and I was so inspired. And I really wanted to meet the real Aaron now.
Oh, good. I love that. I agree. And I think, too, they did a good job of just repositioning it and taking us from just the idea, a world of a show and this guy in jail to really getting to know a character and what life in prison can be like, and having just to make the necessary adjustments and the clicks and a little violence we got to see as well. Jeff, what you think?
No, I thought this was very well needed. And like Dot said, not in the right spot. It makes sense if I'm a producer, if I'm like running the show, you're like, you know what? I want people to understand what he's going through right before he has to go through that trial. So like, I get it as a viewer. I was like, I'm ready for the trial now. But like, this even makes me more ready for the trial because we got to see him go into the jail cell. We got to see him deal with, hey, bend over and cough. Like, we never got to see the trials and tribulations of the first time going in there. When he went into the jail cell and puked, when he like had to learn the lay of the land, and how there was a bigger dog than we'd ever even seen because we had never even met, we never even met some of the players before we got there. So it was really cool to see. It was very eye-opening. But yeah, I want to get to the trial now.
I feel
know,
you.
right?
It's
Yeah,
built so much anticipation. Go ahead,
yeah,
Emily.
it built this, like, I was so anxious during this episode. I don't know if you guys felt it, but because we started out with that just beautiful tableau of just all the articles and like the layout of his case all over his cell on the walls, like I felt like we were closing in on something, and we're obviously, I think we're going to see it later, but I felt like this episode was us getting these little nuggets of truth and these little pieces of breadcrumbs that like we were frustrated that we didn't have. And I feel like they had to use these 10 episodes in order to build that frustration, because Aaron's frustrated with the justice system. So like as a viewer, we have to be frustrated too for him. And so
Yeah.
I feel like they used this as a moment to like breathe in this episode and say, okay, this is the truth that you haven't seen.
Yeah, it's like, okay, get ready because there's a bunch that's about to come. But we did need to experience all the truth. And some of those
Mhm.
elements were just, figuring out, because I had wondered too, like, how did he get in this position to where like he had so much respect? I felt
Mhm.
that a component that had been missing was kind of the violence that goes with prison. And we saw a little bit of that. I'm gonna come back to that because I want to talk about, I think my the biggest thing that I love seeing tonight was just going back and being able to define the relationship that he has with his best friend cellmate, who I know they said his last name, I forgot to write it down and they never said his name again. But I just thought, that piece of male companionship and friendship and just being there. And I just really, really valued that. I thought that was so great to see, not just for, a jail life or like the black male element, but just to kind of see how you can make acquaintances and friendships. And even I think Aaron had said that in the episode. He was talking about Darius. Don't talk about him yet because we're not going there.
Don't.
But just in knowing who your people are and knowing who your friends are, what was, I guess, Dot, you tell me what was kind of the best thing about the episode for you?
I have to second everything that you said, kind of seeing that brotherhood that does happen in jail. We always hear about the bad things, but the honest truth is you are in this cell confined, and this person kind of gets to know you better than you may know yourself. So a really strong point in this episode is when Marie asked him to sign those divorce papers, and his cellmate, Aaron didn't even have to say anything. I think he was playing with his ring and, he broke down, which is the first time we've really seen him this vulnerable. And he just looked at him and just played the song and kind of looked in the distance. And he almost gave sort of a sense that he had seen it before, or he had felt that same way before, or maybe he had saw it coming. There was just this very clear understanding and just a beautiful moment of, I got you, dog, like it's just us in here. And for me, it's a good thing to see that you can make a real friend in jail.
For
Yeah,
sure. I think he was like, "What's up, bro?" And I was just like, "Oh, anytime you say bro, it's just gonna take you to like recognize it a little bit different." Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, Dot, like that moment in this episode really got me, because it was like a protective gesture as well, because you're like, blocking out the sound of someone crying with music.
Yeah.
I feel like it was very poignant, and just showing, because he's new to prison, like you can't show your vulnerabilities, you have to be strong, and like it just made me just feel for him. And so and I feel like that brought them together even more with his cellmate.
I think that's a great point too, because I hadn't thought about him playing the music as like a distraction. Now he was at this point he had been in maybe 7-8 years.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's
able to find ways to be vulnerable with another man is like, honorable. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, you guys all hit on some points, and I'm glad you hit on it, Emily, because I was gonna say it was twofold for me when I saw it, because he realized he didn't need to say anything because he said, "What's up, bro?"
Unspoken.
And it was like, he's like, no. So this conversation I just need to be here. And then twofold, also, that there's people on both sides. They don't need to hear you crying, because this is a moment, and we can't do that here. You know what I'm saying? So that was great to see. But I loved the progression of their friendship, like seeing him from day one. He's like, "Yo, get the puke off the ground because I do my push-ups there." Also, you have half the wall you're supposed to have. Like there were so many things he had to get used to get to that point, and to see that they gotten that far, that he was like, you know what, dog, I already know you don't need any words. Let me just play this music and let you get it out. And then it even took a step further when they were like leaving their cells and being like kind of like separated at the end. It's like, you've been my dog for what, 8 years now? Like, you've been literally the only person I can talk to all day, every day. So like, it was cool to see that relationship develop through this episode.
And what was the reason? Because I think I missed it. Why did he go to another cell?
I think
it was
just making changes.
the new warden, right? Yeah.
I think she was kind of upgrading everyone's cell, maybe giving people more space. They were getting new beds. So it was supposed to be a positive, but you also have to think of this friendship that was made. And it's like losing a roommate.
Right.
I was gonna say, whatever upgrade or move, technically you're still moving your house. So like, he had to still move away from his roommate, move all his belongings and stuff. It's a lot.
No, it's a big deal. And any kind of change in like situation like that with friendship, it always makes you just like kind of question it, because you don't know what it's going to do to change it, because you spent all this time building a friendship based on these elements. So, but we do get to see that their friendship maintains. Now, one of the things that I had trouble with, and I want to ask you guys what you thought about it, was I didn't have a problem with the element of the character Green, who was like trying to fight Aaron. I liked when he was punching him in the back of the head. You know, that made sense. Like, I'm going to get at you. But when it came down for like Aaron to like have this plot where he was going to like attack him and then kind of back out of it, I don't know. Tell me, Emily, what did you think? Because for me, I just was left like, I don't know if that was as effective. I understood why they needed him to not do it, but I just don't know how realistic of an approach that was.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a tough moment for Aaron. I feel like it's so out of character for him to do something like this. I don't think he's outwardly violent unless he's protecting himself in the moment. But I feel like this was calculated, it was planned, and I feel like that's part of why it didn't go any further, because it's not part of Aaron's moral compass to do something like this. So but I also felt like it's a pretty accurate experience. I feel like that you hear about and see in prison, that there's violence, there's there's groups attacking each other, but
maybe it was just him begging for his, I don't know, something about
it's like him trying to figure out his place in this like prison world, this
I feel what you're saying, Keith. Like, of course, for the storytelling, they had to make Aaron not kill him, because then we would kind of see this murderer, this bad side of him that would make it difficult to be on his side. But at the end of the day, he's in jail trying to gain respect. And as a person has this plot and they don't follow through with it, to me, it kind of just makes you a pinpoint for further drama and further mishaps, because people know that you won't follow through. So when I watched it, I struggled a little bit, like, oh, well, if I was in jail, I would be like, I'm always going after Aaron because he gets too afraid to kill anybody.
But they did save face by having the kingpin guy or whomever he had put out the hit on. So I got that. But Jeff, what did you think about it?
I thought it was very realistic. Like, it was a test. He's still very new. So this is probably in the first couple years of him being there, or first year of him being there.
It's like his initiation,
I know, but like everything that he knows about this one guy that's behind him is that he's a killer. He's like multiple homicide. Like, every party that we know is bad is saying that this guy is bad.
Yeah.
So like, what is Aaron supposed to think? He thinks that his life is in danger. So what is he gonna do? I'm just gonna be on the attack. But then we see where his moral compass is. Like, he can't physically do it. And then the fact that he ended up dying in general, that's realistic. My thing is, like, at the end of the day, he saw who was jumping him. He's gonna snitch. What is a kingpin gonna do? Eliminate the problem. So him killing him, that made a lot of sense to me. I thought there'd be a little bit more backlash for Aaron, but at the end of the day, he's a lawyer and he got himself out of the problems. So I think he got himself out of the problems quick enough to not have the backlash that we were kind of expecting.
Yeah, I think Aaron does a really good job at problem solving and getting ahead
Mhm.
of them so that he gets himself out of like a weary position. I wonder what happened to the old Kingpin because we don't know. We didn't see there. We know that Dawkins is the new him. But speaking on what you just said about Aaron being a lawyer, so we did get to go back and see. And one of the things that I was kind of impressed with or was wondering like what was his interest in, law, how he got to do it. So problem solving, we saw that it really was a means to an end from the jump with
Mhm.
his original cellmate just having to
Yeah.
defend themselves to get out of the hole. And then when it came back to paying the debt for the Kingpin killing Green,
Mhm.
he really had to take on that. And so that's how he got into the whole world of kind of developing a legal career and just sitting through and the ideas he came with going through law school and then having to pass the bar. So I thought that was super duper inspirational. Everybody knows that I want to go to law school. So I was just like, wow, just his ability to kind of just have that discipline and focus and to find, he always finds a way to do what he needs to do, I think. Dot, what about you in terms of Aaron's journey on being a lawyer?
I agree with you. It was definitely inspirational, just knowing that no matter what, if you push forward, your dreams can come true. Here we are looking at someone who's in jail, who's studying for the bar exam, who's going, the back end, going around things, doing some deep thinking. But the entire time that I was watching it, I also was just coming to the realization that he kind of have he was a natural. He kind of had this talent
Mhm.
or this gift. It wasn't that it wasn't self-taught because we do see him studying, but it was his second nature to kind of always think a little bit deeper and to question and to challenge things. So I liked seeing that it was in him. I'd be interested to know his life outside of jail before ever even getting there. Is this something that he was interested in, maybe in high school or something like that?
Mhm.
Just his thinking. He was made to be a lawyer.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think
Yeah.
he's naturally a leader, and we got to see that. We'll talk about when we get to the warden situation. But Jeff, what about you?
No, I agree. I I just think that he's like he was kind of put in a situation. It was kind of out of necessity, and what threw me off, and like maybe it just like they always said he was a new lawyer and everything, but like he just passed the bar like a year
Yesterday.
before we saw him. Like
Mhm.
he
That's
was green
Super
green.
new.
Like
Yeah.
when they said it's year 8 and he like just got the bar, I'm like, homie, we saw like that was like 5 minutes ago. So like that's what threw me off the most. Like his whole progression, it was great to see, and it seemed like it was a lot out of necessity because like there was all these people like we can't help you. It's like yes, you can. Just do this. Just read. And it's like now we can't help you. It's like I'm gonna just do it myself because he's a hustler, like you guys are saying. Like
Mhm.
he's a problem solver, and I think the hustler mentality and the leadership kind of went hand in hand with him running a business because at the end of the day he had to run a club. He had to make sure all that stuff was in line. So it makes sense.
Definitely. And what about you, Emily, in terms of Aaron's
Yeah, I mean,
legal
I
progression?
agree. Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of you guys. Like when we first saw him in doing that kind of hearing in the prison, like already he was doing what a lawyer does. So it was a natural fit for him to say, okay, I want to take this big step so I can help. I feel like initially it's like, hey, I can help myself here if I know how to ask the right questions, look into the right stuff. So again, it's a natural fit for him. And it takes what's crazy is it takes a lot to pass the bar. And I'm wondering, like, is this the first time he took it and passed, or was it like 7 times he studied to take it and then finally passed? So
Mhm.
I feel like that moment, I feel like I would have loved to have it a little bit longer and more extended so I could really see how hard you have to work to get that.
I
Yeah,
agree,
that
Emily.
makes
I
sense.
was waiting for that. I was like, he's definitely not passing on the first time, but it's okay because I know he gets it.
Yeah.
But it didn't really show that part, and I was like, oh man, I was waiting for the fails. That's what made
Yeah.
me really
Mhm.
wanted
Yeah. You need those like ups and downs to make it feel like a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, they did compress a lot into this episode, so I get why we didn't see every kind of bit of the journey, but it
Mhm.
may have been nice to see him kind of fall on his face in that world, and then to see how he recovered and still have the energy and the want to still develop that skill and to hone it. But one other thing we did get to see, and I'm going to start with Dot because she predicted last week that we were going to see the situation play out with Aaron and Darius, and we saw he visited not once, twice, but 3 times. So what do you make of, now that we have the context or more context of their relationship, where do you think that stands? Who's right? Who's justified? Like, Dot, go ahead and kick us off.
You know what? This has been the controversy since day one of our AfterBuzz show, is what is Darius's true intentions? And I think that we've been learning throughout this story that Darius is a good guy. I'm not gonna, not pertaining to him and Marie quite yet, but it seems like he tried to be loyal to Aaron. It seems like Aaron was a good friend to him. He came, he was like, I got you on the fees, you would do it for me. And what really stung me is when he came to let him know that he was seeing Marie and said, it's been 8 years, life has to go on. And that really sat with me because 8 years is a very long time. 8 years is enough for you to change your mind about so many things, for your perspective on life to alter. And because they were working so closely together, I can see how this happened with him and Marie. I still think that there are just so many other women in the world. And I still think, as a true friend, you wouldn't ever want to devastate a best friend in that way, especially when they are in such a vulnerable and helpless situation. So me seeing Darius go and have those conversations with Aaron was exactly what I needed for me to really truly understand the dynamic of their relationship, which seemed genuine, but it just only made it hurt even worse that he's dating Marie.
Yeah.
I respect it. Jeff, what you think?
Look, I put so much like passion in the fact that we never saw him go up and talk to Aaron. And until episode 10, we hadn't. So like what am I supposed to think? But that now that we have, I'm happy that he did go see him and try and go help him. I'm still on the fence of how he handled the last meeting when he was like, yo, I'm moving in now. I'm moving in with Marie. Not like, it seemed kind of like brass or whatever, but like also it's been 8 years. So like it's back and forth. So I'm not against him or with him on that one. And I definitely think Aaron's response was not warranted is not the right word. Not
warranted is the right word.
I don't think it was warranted because it's been 8 years. I think it was truthful. I think it was realistic, but I wouldn't say warranted because it's also been 8 years. And she asked for a divorce 2 years ago.
Yep.
And he knew about it. That's the part that threw me off. He knew about the divorce. He said something about the divorce to Aaron, and that was at like 3 months or something like that. It's been 2 years now, and he was still with her. So why you're with Marie for almost a year and a half, knowing that she asked for the divorce and that it hasn't happened? What's going on there?
Okay, and Emily, you?
Oh my God! I mean, you guys are so heated about this. This has been like the battle, the fight that we all have. I am so torn about this conversation, these multiple conversations and visits this last episode. I'm kind of on Darius's side in some ways because I feel like he was trying to help Marie move on, but also I understand the heartbreak of Aaron not wanting to let that part of his life go, because you never are truly gonna ever let your wife and your kid and all of that go, and that's a part of him forever, and no matter where you are. And so I get kind of where both of them are coming from. I like that Darius did actually take the time as a friend and say, hey, this is what's happening, and he was truthful and he stepped up, because I feel like, Jeff, we had conversations on this panel previously of like, oh man, why can't he just be a man and go up and talk to him, confront him. And I feel like he did that, and he did that in the best way possible, and he built up to it. And Aaron should not have felt like this was out of place and out of the blue, because I feel like there's inklings, you kind of know.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I can understand it. It's difficult to move on. I would love to stay here because I still have issue and things that I would like to play, but I'm
So
gonna let it
many,
alone. It
so
was
many
just good
issues.
to see, like you said, we got to finally realize that he at least did visit him. He at least did address him man to man, and as a result, they no longer have a friendship, which is understandable. But moving on,
Which
because
now
we
makes
still got some
sense. Which
things that we're going to
that
get
question
to.
was answered. Yeah.
Right? The last element I think of the show before we get into our special segment for Life and Back was just the warden situation. So for me, I understood that the I felt the biggest use of seeing like an old warden fall out and then a new warden come in was just to see how instrumental Aaron has been to the prison and puts him in a very particular position
Mhm.
to be a leader and to kind of fight as hard as he does for so many elements. Other than that, I was just like, his name was Cyrus Hunt. We got on the back end. We saw that he was a bad guy, or we know that he was a bad guy, but we didn't really see much of that. So the violence element, I think, for me, is just like a little not as appealing as I would like. But for you guys, really quickly, Jeff, what did you think about knowing that there was a warden before? Because I don't know if we knew that before or
I
not.
don't I don't think we did either. I think he was just like a thing to move the story forward. Because if you think about it, he was setting up traps for Aaron to like
Mhm.
hurdle through when it was his first couple months or whatever, and he needed him to like learn to be a lawyer to get to that point. So it was just a hurdle, and that's why I think we were introduced to his character.
Definitely. What about you, Dot? Any thoughts on that old warden versus the new warden?
Yeah, I actually really loved seeing the old warden versus the new warden. For one, it kind of gave me a greater sense of the warden's intentions moving into the jail cell. And it also made me just more aware of time because you see all of the different changes that were happening. And you really get to see that the warden really came in with the prisoners at the front of her heart, and how all the changes that she was making was to benefit them and to make them feel more humane. So I feel like the greatest indicator of time is change. And so seeing, going from those visits that were non-contact to in contact, I thought that that was one of the most interesting things, because we've seen a few of those flashback scenes, but I never put the two and two together that,
Mhm.
hey, they're in,
Yeah, there's a wall, and
now,
then
there's
yeah,
a wall back then. So seeing that just, lets you see that things have been evolving and that it has been quite some time since he's been in jail.
yeah.
Definitely. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like this was it was important to see, because we needed to see how Aaron was established with this new warden, because we've always talked about kind of questioning her motives and questioning if she's really a good person and if she's on Aaron's side. And we could see this pre-established kind of status quo, and this moment of like, okay, hey, I'm a new person. It's going to be totally different here, your experience in prison. And it helped Aaron get to where he is currently. And so
Yeah.
that was why establishing the story moment and knowing, hey, this is the horrible stuff that was going on before. I know we have some bad stuff now, but this was way worse. So seeing that transition, I think, was really important.
I agree. And it definitely showed us right off the bat how, that relationship that Aaron has with her. We were always wondering, like, well, what is it about these two? But she already
Mhm.
said, you're responsible for me being here. So she kind of started
Yeah,
off indebted to
exactly.
Aaron in some ways. It was interesting. So tonight we got to see all of those elements. We didn't get to see anybody walk out of prison. There wasn't a particular case because we are getting ready for Aaron's case. So that's why I think it's good that we got the For Life and Back segment. Jeff, tell us what's going on.
Yes, For Life and Back is where we highlight people who have been wrongfully imprisoned and then exonerated, and we just talk about the stories about them. And this week we're talking about Terrence Lewis, who was wrongfully convicted for 21 years of murder, and he finally got exonerated. But the problem is that he's out right now, but he can't get a job because in the state of Pennsylvania where he is, wrongfully convicted people can't really get money. They can't get money for being wrongfully convicted. So right now he is helping the homeless, and his job is to help
Mhm.
the homeless and help the homeless at a homeless shelter. So that is what he's doing, to collect money and still work during this time of coronavirus, because at the end of the day, these people that are leaving jail still need to live lives. And that's what he's trying to do. And to make money, he is helping the homeless right now. So I wanted to highlight him. And then the Philadelphia Inquirer actually wrote about him along with a couple other people but he was quoted saying that my belief was and still is that God Almighty does not place a burden on a soul more than it has the strength to bear. Once I put that in my heart, once I was able to do the things that were necessary for me, such as taking my care, work out, you got the things that'll give you insane. You got to cherish that which you have and allow you to cope with what you don't have. And I love that quote because in the time now, we jokingly say, like, and I don't say we as a whole, as like social media and everything, we jokingly say, oh, we're locked up now. Oh, this is what people in jail are like. But like, they're laughing at us because this is what they've been going through. Not in a physical, I mean, not in like the exact sense, but like in a sense, they've been locked up. They've been having to be away from people. And he's like, I've been living this for 21 years, was a couple more months. So it was funny that he was kind of putting light to it, but also the quote was great and it opened my eyes, and I wanted to like just share with everybody because like just know what you have, cherish what you have, and then don't really worry about what you don't, because all you can do is enjoy what you have and just think about the good parts, and that's what's going to get you past this. So that's why I wanted to bring this up.
I love that. I mean, I
Beautiful.
think that's
So
a beautiful
beautiful.
thing. That
Yeah.
just that level of resiliency, you know, I'm sure that has to be part of what's maintained him. You know, for somebody to be in jail for so many years and it was wrong, you can only imagine. So it's always nice to see stories like that that come up in the news. So I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you kind of always find a good spot, like something that we get to sit on, and that'll preach any day of the week. But Emily, let us know what news and gossip you were able to kind of get your hands on.
Awesome. So Curtis Jackson is sharing a bunch of stuff on his Twitter lately because he has a book coming out on April 28th. So in like a week or so, less than. And it's called Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. And it opens up about his whole life, just his tragic personal loss to becoming like this thriving businessman and being cable's like highest paid executive right now. And it's pretty much a unique self-help guide that is from a perspective we've never really heard before. And so you can pre-order it on the publisher's website and I think on Amazon and a bunch of other places. So please go check it out. And it sounds like it's going to be an incredible story.
Adding that to the collection for sure.
Yeah.
Right, Jeff, you gonna copy?
Exactly.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Okay. We
working
read
harder
it
and smarter
together
over here.
Yeah, we're all hustling, right?
all day long.
If you
Okay,
think
well,
we
we
go
can,
from being shot 9 times to highest paid executive, we've all got to read that book.
exactly. And then because of his personality and all of the kind of antics and stuff, it'll be really good to just see how he is, because you've got to be like a top tier business person,
Oh my
even
gosh,
to put
yeah.
yourself in this type of position. But enough about 50, because we'll talk about that when it comes out. We got some last minute quick prediction, guys. We're going into, I think, 2 episodes left, maybe one before the
Yeah,
finale.
2 more, I think. 2 more. Yep.
Emily, go ahead and start us off. What's your prediction?
Well, I mean, I think this next episode, the next last 2, is going to be about his retrial and we're going to have some type of closure, and but again, he has to have a few more hurdles until we kind of have some type of conclusion. So we'll see.
Okay. What about you, Jeff?
Emily thought there was going to be closure. I still don't think there will be.
Some type of closure. Maybe not the full thing, but maybe another breakthrough or something.
Look, at the end of this season, I think he's going to be breaking through those doors and going right back to his cell, unfortunately. And that is my prediction. I don't want it to happen, but it is what it is. There's been, like I said last week, there's been too many times they kind of hinted at it. We need you in here. We need you in here. Yeah. If he's gone, what? How is the jail cell? Like, where's the storyline going in the jail cell? So, unfortunately, that is my prediction.
It makes sense. What about you, Di?
I see where you're going from, Will. However, Jeff, I said Will. I see where you're coming from, Jeff. But I don't know who Will is. Maybe Williams.
I was gonna go with Will Smith, but
is that he is gonna win his trial, and that the following seasons are gonna focus on his life after he gets out. And so, although they're saying they need him in jail, we are gonna learn how he is maneuvering, being a lawyer on the outside and still pulling his people like the Underground Railroad. Tubman, like bringing his people out.
We
I can see him.
We gonna get them.
Yeah, I could see him being a lawyer for that prison. Like, he's out, but he's like, no, I'm the representative for everyone that's in here.
Yeah,
So
I think that'd
he
be
could,
cool.
be like a public
I like that.
defender.
I don't know at this point which way we're going to go, because for me, side of it is like a Jeff situation. If we're going to set up the second season, we can get way more stories if he's still in prison. But then, too, to Dot's credit, it's like, well, if he's out, like, what? It would be interesting to see for the real Aaron Wallace, like, what happened with his life, after that. How do you go on to do such amazing work? So for me, my prediction, I don't really have one. I'm going to try to think about it, and I can talk about it with you guys on social media. We're just about out of time. Dot, like I said, social media, where can I find you?
You guys can find me everywhere, all across the board, at .McDonald, and that is DOT McDonald, like the restaurant, but without an S.
All right. What about you, Jeff?
They can follow me at Jeff Will Jr. on all your social media platforms.
And Emily?
And you can find me on all social media platforms at Emily May Heller.
Perfect. And I'm all over social media at Keith_Andre. We can always keep the conversation going.
Slide in those DMs.
Ooh.
Slide in those DMs.
Please.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. Leave it on that note.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.